Welcome back. This just in, a new discovery and shocking revelation has been made in the murder of Anna Mariah Wilson, which brings official investigators with an urgent message for the public. I'm John Doe, bringing you all the latest news in the criminal world. Earlier this month, a woman by the name of Kaitlin Cash made a harrowing 911 call, where she reported to dispatchers that she had returned home from a night out with friends only to discover her close friend, Anna Mariah Wilson, lying on her bathroom floor, unconscious and covered in blood. First responders were able to quickly arrive to the scene where Kaitlin was found attempting to perform life saving measures until EMS arrived. Unfortunately, EMS determined that Anna had suffered from a gunshot wound to her head and found cerebral spinal fluid. EMS determined that Anna had died instantly after the first shot. At the same time, officers began investigating the scene and questioned Kaitlin on what had happened. Initially, police believed Anna had died from a robbery gone wrong. As Kaitlin mentioned, Anna was a professional biker with a priceless bike that might have been sought after by thieves. This theory would later be thrown out as officers quickly found the bike poorly hidden in the surrounding area. Immediately, officers on the scene believed it was planted to throw them off from what had actually happened. Going back to Caitlin's recount of what happened that day of Anna's murder, Caitlin had revealed that Anna was having dinner with her ex boyfriend, Colin Strickland. The day after Anna's murder, officers arrived at Colin's residence, where detectives would immediately notice a red flag. In Colin's driveway was a parked black Jeep. This black Jeep was also determined to be an exact match to the one identified by investigators from CCTV footage recovered that also showed a black Jeep approaching Caitlin's residence where Anna was, and was also shown leaving Anna after she was murdered. However, the detectives later discovered that the black Jeep did not belong to Colin and was actually owned by Caitlin Armstrong, Colin's ex girlfriend. Colin and Caitlin had an on and off relationship, and Colin had admitted to dating Anna only after he had broken up with Caitlin, but got back with her shortly after. Colin still kept in touch with Anna and would arrange to meet with her when she had came into town. Investigators then learned another piece of information that would lead them to determine Caitlin Armstrong as their prime suspect, and as Colin recounts, on the day of Anna's murder, Caitlin's whereabouts were completely unknown, and she would return later that night only after Colin had gotten home less than an hour after Anna was murdered. So far, investigators had their suspects but would quickly rule out all but one. Caitlin Cash was tested for gunshot residue after discovering Anna, and the results came back negative, in addition to her own alibi of having dinner with her friends being confirmed. Colin was last with Anna during her last moments alive, which still left him as a suspect. However, later details would soon clear his name as being a suspect. Caitlin Armstrong, however, was not ruled out given the fact that not only was her black Jeep seen on the footage at the time and location of Anna's murder, but also because her whereabouts were completely unknown. However, authorities could not bring her in for questioning as they had no solid evidence as the occupant of who was driving the black Jeep. However, upon further investigation, investigators were unbelievably lucky, as there was an arrest warrant out for Caitlin Armstrong for a minor infraction. Caitlin was brought into police custody where things took a turn for the worse. Caitlin was immediately closed off and would not cooperate with the detective interrogating her. And, to make matters worse, the detective interrogating Caitlin would make a costly mistake, such as not properly addressing Caitlin's questions as to why she's being questioned on Anna's murder, when they initially told her that she was arrested for something else entirely. Getting nowhere, the detective continued to ask Caitlin on her whereabouts the night that Anna was murdered, and continued to ignore Caitlin's questionings if she should have an attorney present. The detective was teetering between breaking the law herself and in direct lines of violating Caitlin's constitutional rights. However, the interrogation would later come to a complete stop when it was later determined that Caitlin Armstrong's arrest warrant was null and void due to an error made. Caitlin could no longer be legally detained or questioned by authorities. In a last ditch effort, the detective openly admits Caitlin is a prime suspect as there is overwhelming evidence against her linking her to Anna's death. And before detectives could continue, Kaitlin was ultimately free to leave and was let go. Colin was later called back for a second time, where he set the record straight and gave detectives the missing details to once and for all confirm Kaitlin was directly responsible for Anna's murder. Colin had revealed to detectives that Caitlin's behavior was obsessive over him, and Colin also mentioned one particularly interesting fact. Colin had bought Caitlin a gun for self-defense. Experts were quickly able to compare the bullets and casings found at the crime scene that came to an exact match with the gun that Caitlin owns, finally confirming that Caitlin had killed Anna. But before investigators and police could do anything to Caitlin, it is now confirmed that Kaitlin Armstrong is no longer in the United States. That is correct. Kaitlin Armstrong is now confirmed to have fled and has evaded authorities from arresting her. Federal investigators are now involved and have established a manhunt and are quickly investigating as to where Kaitlin is, suspecting her to have fled to Costa Rica, and also notes that Kaitlin has more than likely also changed her appearance in some shape or way, considering the fact that she fled the United States under a fake passport, specifically her sister's passport. Federal investigators also leave Kaitlin with this message: turn yourself in. It is the safest option for everyone involved, as there is now no confirmation where Kaitlin is, as the federal investigators urge the public to be on high alert. If you or anyone you know may have information that leads to the arrest of Kaitlin Armstrong, you are to report it immediately and contact local authorities. This is 24/7 News. Stay alert and stay safe.